GamerGate, the absolute non-issue that simply refuses to go away. I mean, first world people are in an uproar, particularly on the internet, that this supposed gigantic fraud, this collusion and conspiracy inside the gaming journalism industry is taking place, and that's got everybody upset. What this event has really done, this non-issue, has exposed to us real issues that need to be dealt with. The psychotic mentality of the MRA, their conspiratorial mindset in this incident, has been laid for the entire world to see. But in order for us to truly unravel all of this and understand it, we must of course start at the very beginning. Basically, the supposed integrity in gaming journalism was brought to an end because someone named Zoe Quinn allegedly exchanged sexual favors for coverage of the game she produced called Depression Quest. The person accused of accepting them is Nathan Grayson. The problem is, he never wrote any article on it. He did, however, write an article about a failed reality show she was on. Another article mentioned her game. Now, the month after that, they became romantically linked, and he has not written about her since then. This claim that she traded sexual favors for positive coverage is an absolute and complete fiction. As a result of this false accusation, she's been repeatedly accused of making false rape threats against herself, for making false death threats, pretending all this to make herself look like the victim. They even say she spread her own docs in an attempt to make it look like she's the victim, when we actually do know that these very things are very common to be done against women in the gaming industry. That pretty much seems to be the norm now. Now, in addition to this, she was accused of not handing over the proceeds of Depression Quest to the charity that she said she was going to give them to, even though the charity has already confirmed that she did hand the money over. The GamerGate started when it was claimed she did not turn over the money. When the charity confirmed that she did, people began harassing the charity and threatening legal action. They claimed they didn't disclose publicly the donations she gave. It is a matter of law that this is not illegal. The charity, with volunteers and one part-time paid intern, helps people who deal with depression. To attack this kind of organization in such a way is nothing but cowardly. From there, Zoe Quinn was then accused of trading sexual favors to win an award for her game Depression Quest. Of course, her game didn't actually win that award. It got an honorable mention. And of course, once again, not one shred of evidence of this claim of trading sexual favors was actually manifested. It is again a baseless claim. Now, being that this is all about misogyny and the internet, we knew, and everybody should know, that this was not going to be contained to attacking just one person. Maya Kramer was accused of sleeping with the Independent Games Festival chairman to secure an award for The Stanley Parable, a game she'd done public relations for. The accusation was made in a YouTube video that is now no longer available. This award was the Audience Award, decided by a public vote on the website, meaning any such act could not have actually helped her. Guardian journalist Jen Frank was accused of not disclosing a conflict of interest in her article, when in fact the original copy, the original draft, does have it, but it was the Guardian itself that took the mention out because they said it didn't meet their requirements to be considered a conflict of interest that was of any significance whatsoever. In true mindless misogynistic fashion, Anita Sarkaesian, the woman behind Feminist Frequency, was dragged into it, even though she had nothing to do with it. It was claimed that all of this was part of a bigger conspiracy by her and others to attack men and destroy their masculinity or take people's video games away or whatever. She still is accused to this day of fabricating threats against her, even though the FBI has confirmed them to be real. Just recently, she was forced to cancel a talk at Utah State University because several credible terrorist threats were made. The statement, "Feminists have ruined my life, and I will have my revenge, for my sake and the sake of all others they've wronged." This was the exact words that were used. The FBI and other law enforcement agencies have already stated that they're attempting to track down the person responsible. Threats of a shooting were made against her and other feminists at the lecture. The university acted irresponsibly. First, by not telling Sarkeesian that the threat was made. Second, she had to find out about it from the media. Second, the university and the Utah police refused to search for guns or ban them from entering the lecture because open carry is legal. Now, in this, a real issue is revealed. You're telling me somebody can make what authorities themselves consider to be a credible terrorist threat to shoot up a school with the specific aim of killing as many women as possible, then proceed to not restrict firearms from entering said lecture. And this is okay? Now imagine somebody made a credible threat of shooting up a politician. Then people proceeded to bring guns to that speaking engagement where he was going to go to. And the security there, the police, law enforcement, just decided that it was okay to bring guns into the place where the politician who had just been threatened was speaking, because open carry is legal there. Now, I don't think for 1 second that they would actually allow that. Why the university and the police proceeded to do this astounds me. Now, let's also consider the seriousness of the threat, the multiple threats. Threats that were made to invoke the horrors of the Montreal massacre, where a lot of women were killed because of some misogynistic psychopath who had it out for feminists. Think about the mentality of the people who make a threat like this. You know who does this? The Taliban does this. This is exactly the kind of thing the Taliban did over and over again, and they carried it out. The mentality of the people who hate someone for criticizing misogyny so much they went to the length of acting like the Taliban. It is unbelievable to me that people could act in such a manner. I mean, we're literally seeing an industrialized first world nation acting like a third world Islamic fundamentalist country. Just think about the seriousness of that and how that actually reflects upon modern, real-life American society today. A big boom in the supposed controversy was the release of a mailing list in which game writers talked to each other. It came from Breitbart, and it was never explained why it was supposedly controversial. There was nothing interesting being discussed on the mailing list. It turned out to be people who happened to share the same job, joking with each other, and asking each other menial questions. The fact that this story came from Breitbart should be enough to make you look at it with a very skeptical eye. This is what began the whole gigantic conspiratorial essence to all this. From here, we began to see a gigantic conspiracy that involved everybody in the gaming industry, some gigantic plot by feminists and Illuminati in the government trying to socially engineer us. Yes, that's right. They even went to the point of bringing the Glenn Beck-like conspiracy of social engineering to try to scare the public from this complete non-issue that took place. Now think about that accusation. There are people, and a lot of people behind GamerGate who really believe that there is a force out there trying to program people, and they go ahead and they invoke the terrible images of Nazi Germany. And compare that to what's going on right now. That's social engineering. It's a way to control us. It's to brainwash us to think a certain way, to try to force our culture to be in a cultural Marxist kind of way. Think about that. The programming of people in Nazi Germany, the ultra-nationalism to justify the horrors they carried out, is comparable to a woman standing up at a lecture and saying, here's what harassment online looks like. That is actually qualitatively the same to them. In their mind, their deluded, psychopathic, conspiratorial mind, these two things are the same. If that doesn't reek of absolute misogyny with a taste of mental illness, I really don't know what would. Another important real issue to keep in mind here is the absurd extreme that has been gone to. Just because some woman wanted to criticize video games, and in this actually beginning with Zoe Quinn, who literally did nothing wrong and actually didn't do anything at all. And how this has gone from some, what is allegedly beginning with some guy who was her ex-boyfriend creating an 8,000 word document attacking her, snowballing into what is a borderline Illuminati type conspiracy. What the real issue is, how disturbing is it that journalism in video games is the absolute single most important thing in these people's lives? We have the real media lying to us to justify wars, oppression, shooting their own citizens in the street, stealing from them. But none of that bothers them. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, it's the conspiracy of feminists that has to be absolutely spoken to and going to an extreme to harass people about, day in and day out. I think this shows the real priorities of these kinds of people. In the midst of all this non-issue nonsense, there is an uncovering of very real issues taking place, as these people of questionable mental state continue to present false images of conspiracy to speak to what problem really exists. Sexism, plain and simple. The absurdity of people's behavior is beyond question. What we have is a massive attack against people who haven't done anything wrong. We have an attack against people who didn't even do what they were accused of. The depth of the defamatory actions that have been made is absolutely insane. All of this began because, according to rumors that just won't go away, so I don't know if they're true or not, that one of Zoe Quinn's ex-boyfriends started all of this. That he went out and wrote an 8,000 word document about how mad he was at her and all these things that she supposedly did, all of which turned out not to be true. So some kind of jilted ex-lover supposedly started all of this. It seems like a reasonable thing. I mean, everything that's been said thus far was completely baseless. The comments, unverifiable, no evidence supporting comments, began all of this. And it has snowballed into this gigantic conspiracy theory. That in itself is actually very disturbing. A great irony in all of this is the herd mentality. Many of these people attacking these women are libertarians, those who champion their supposed independent thinking, yet we see them so blindly and mindlessly attacking something they don't understand out of a hateful knee-jerk reaction. For all their supposed individualism and being free thinkers who think for themselves, the antithesis of those commie brainwashed sheeple, they're acting as total zombies, attacking without reason a few women on the internet. There are words to describe these people. They're religious zealots. Let me break down something important to you. Gaming journalism isn't journalism. Real journalism is going out and talking about an issue that's real, something that affects the everyday world, IRL kind of things, then going and taking that and putting forth an analysis or a commentary and presenting it to a viewer. That's what the real media does. That's what the real news with the real journalists actually do. Gaming journalism could not be any different to this. Their job, literally, is to sell you a product. Their job is to go out and write about a commodity created for exchange and try to get you to buy it or talk about it, to advertise it, to get you to buy it. There is nothing really constructive that actually comes out of gaming journalism. Once in a while they talk about, some issue that's kind of related to video games or kind of related to video game culture. But it's just like some kind of brief caveat. It's not important. There's nothing of substance there. Just some brief mention. Because that's not what gaming journalism is about. It's about selling you a product. So for a lot of people just to go out and say, well, this is corruption in the gaming industry. Well, look how they're perverting it. I say they don't know what the gaming industry is about. It's not about giving you a story. It's not about reporting on something or giving commentary. It's about selling you games. Because when someone comes along who does do real commentary, who does authentically criticize video games or video game culture, they get attacked, like Anita Sarkaesian did. And now think about this, which I think proves the entire faux outrage about supposed unethical dealings in the gamer industry, the gaming journalism industry. This is really about sexism, pure and simple. The reason I say that is because look at who the two main targets are. Zoe Quinn, Anita Sarkaesian. Two people who are not gaming journalists. They are not a part of the gaming journalism industry. So this is really about the ethics in journalism. Then shouldn't there be more attacks focused on those who actually write the journalism, rather than focusing 80–90% of everything on these two women that don't have anything to do with the journalism in the gaming industry whatsoever? There are actually more important real issues concerning video games. Yes, sexism is one. Here is another. A lot of these games are filled with pro-imperialist propaganda, scenarios and stories meant to promote the idea of war against those who resist U.S. imperialism. Call of Duty, SOCOM, Gears of War, and so on and so on. These themes teach people to recognize third world independence as an enemy, one which must be fought. For example, to them there is no pan-Arab independence movement, or even the need for one. There's only those who are for us and against us. It's either us or Al-Qaeda. It delegitimizes the right to self-determination of Arab nations. It prepares its users for the politics of global economic and military oppression for their own material benefit as first worlders. These are infantile, man-child, like conspiracy theories that are all fueled entirely by misogyny. It's incredible what these people come up with to try to make themselves look like victims. They go to the point of threatening to bomb a place in a previous incident because a woman dared to speak there questioning some aspects of the culture of gaming. How about getting mad at real oppression, like the real bombs that are dropped on the third world every single day, that have killed millions of people in the wars of terrorism, against terrorism of Iraq and Afghanistan? But none of that matters in their little egocentric universe, where the only thing that matters is them. What about something closer to home? What about Ferguson? The police, they just killed another black teenager. And now there's thousands upon thousands of people marching out there. Even intellectuals like Cornel West have gone out there, and even he's been arrested and charged with assaulting an officer. But none of that matters to them. None of this real life stuff matters to them. To them, it's all about attacking some woman on the internet who dared to question just a little bit of stuff about video games, and then create an entire huge conspiracy in their own minds to make themselves look like victims, like they're oppressed by some kind of, matriarchal conspiracy. How about getting concerned by real oppression? But it only matters when it's idealism on some kind of level of socio-cultural criticism, some kind of lofty notion that someone's just thinking about. And that's only when it matters. When real oppression happens to people, they don't want to hear anything about it. They don't even care. Because it's all about the egocentric mindset of the first worlder. Someone thinking about criticizing their games and creating a conspiracy in their minds over that is far more important than the real oppression that's carried out in the world, particularly by the United States government. Well, none of that seems to matter. I mean, what does it matter? It's not happening to me, so therefore it's not happening. And then tell me again more of the supposed revolutionary potential of first world people. They don't even care that this oppression is going on because they benefit from it. It doesn't affect them. In fact, it benefits them. They get the nice, comfortable first world lifestyle because of it. All of this whole complete BS GamerGate garbage is all surrounding a first world mentality of victimhood, about trying to make themselves out to be a victim. The reality is they're a massive global benefactor of everything that's going on, and yet still in their minds, and particularly in the minds of Americans, they still have to make themselves out to be some kind of victim of a conspiracy. Because apparently the world didn't pander to them and their petty little feelings enough. Because maybe something somewhere might say that they're not the center of the universe. Thank you for watching. Please comment and rate the video. If you liked it, hit subscribe or check out some of these other great videos. If you wish, share it on social media. While you're at it, why don't you follow me on Twitter? And if you got time, go on over to the MRN bookstore and check out some of the latest books available.